Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 27th of August 2024, and these are the stories that we'll try to decipher during the course of the show. We'll begin with the terror attacks in Balochistan that have increased in amplitude, and of course 21 terrorists have been killed and 14 personnel have been martyred as the attacks have now been thwarted. This has been confirmed by the ISPR. Also around 50 people have been killed in different incidents across Balochistan. Now whether it be Masakhail, whether it be other areas, the innocent civilians have been targeted. Whether it be the reactions by the Prime Minister, the President or the Chief Minister of Balochistan, Mr. Bukti, who addressed a press conference last night in which he highlighted many important avenues on which the government will be moving together, or the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who also talked today after the cabinet briefing or during the cabinet briefing and highlighted the resolve of the government and the forces to thwart all such elements. The government and the civilians in the country seem to be on one page as far as thwarting such elements is concerned. But then there is also the issue of the sympathizers that has been highlighted by the Chief Minister of Balochistan. What is going to be their fate? How should they be dealt with? This and more will be discussed in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Gaza situation, that is the Israel-Gaza war that has started from the 7th of October and now has ended its 326th day as we speak. Israeli attacks on Gaza continue, whether it be in Deir al-Bala or Khan Yunus. The Palestinians are told to move from one place to another. They don't know where to place themselves, how to move and how to cramp themselves in small areas in order to to move away from all the violence that has been happening. But wherever they move, the violence still follows them and they are still butchered by the Israeli forces. There is still talk of the peace, truce agreement or truce talks that could take place, but that hope is slowly and steadily waning away. This said, different countries are also taking out important reaction as far as what is happening in Palestine is concerned, and also there is the whole Hezbollah, Houthi and Iran angle that also needs to be taken into consideration. This and more will be also discussed in our second story. Then we are going to talk about the monkeypox strain that is changing faster than expected. There is a new monkeypox or mpox strain that the WHO says is mutating very quickly. You all remember, during the time of COVID, there were certain strains that were mutating also very, very quickly because of the environment, because of genetics as well. And this is what is happening with the mpox as well. And our health ministry also saying that they are taking the necessary measures in order to thwart any case of mpox arriving into Pakistan. So far, they are succeeding in their attempts. Then we will be talking about the United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres, who says that there is going to be an unimaginable climate catastrophe due to the rising sea levels across the world. But here he was talking to a gathering of Pacific Island regional leaders in Tonga's capital, Nuku'alofa. He warned that there was no lifeboat to take us back to safety, and this is something that needs to be really catered to, because climate change is a reality, and that reality is slowly and steadily engulfing all the countries of the world. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns the terror attacks in Balochistan, and of course the implications of that and the reactions that have now come. We've been joined by two guests to discuss that in more detail. Our first guest joins us online. He's none other than Lieutenant General Raza Khan, retired. He's a defense attaché, analyst rather. Thank you very much, Lieutenant General Saab, to have joined us, and to have joined us after a bit of a break. Let's begin without further ado. I'd like to talk about certain figures. Security forces, law enforcement agencies have killed 21 terrorists in Balochistan. This has been officially stated by the ISPR. Now, dozens of vehicles have been torched, railway bridge tracks have been blown up. Musakhail terrorists stop a bus in the general area of Rarasham and target innocent civilians. Then they blow up a railway bridge near Kolpur, cut off Quetta from the rest of the country. Another track near Mastung, disconnecting the rail link with Iran. Several highways in Mastung, Kalad, Bela, Turbat, Panjgur have also been attacked. My question to you, for my information, for the information of my audiences, why are such incidents happening? What is the whole methodology or philosophy, if I might call or use this word, behind this? And who are the inimical and hostile forces who are behind such incidents?
Okay, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
All right. I'm sure there is presently a security audit going on by the provincial government as well as the federal government to find out what were the weaknesses because of which these tragic and heinous acts occurred to make amends to our strategy and our force structure related to counterterrorism. And within that, I think an important aspect is the administrative control of the law enforcement agencies in Balochistan. We know that 90% of the area in Balochistan is being protected by levies and the rest by police. Levies are locals who have been hired from within the communities in the rural areas. They are unfortunately neither well trained, nor well equipped, nor well organized. And therefore, I'm sure the government of Balochistan is considering its policy on the subjects. The other areas where police is responsible for law enforcement, they are known as A areas. And this includes, Quetta, and now they were considering to declare Gwadar as A areas and a few other areas. Now, whatever has happened, essentially these have occurred in the B areas, which were controlled by the levies. That is an issue, I'm sure, for the provincial government and the federal government to decide.
The provincial government, Lieutenant General Saab, we've got Shahid Rind, spokesperson of the Balochistan government, right here with us online. Thank you very much, Shahid Rind, to have joined us. Shahid Rind, what are the latest updates as far as the whole process post these incidents is concerned? We had a very important media briefing yesterday by the Chief Minister of Balochistan. We'll come to that a bit later. But I'd also like to know what are the developments regarding the Interior Minister who's in Quetta? Any meetings, any important meetings that have been held? Any decisions that have been taken as follow-up?
Yes, sir, definitely. Government of Balochistan and the federal government both are on board on this situation. And after the deliberation, there are some decisions which I can't discuss on the media right now. But I partially disagree with General Raza about the situation and the capacity of levies. Yes, levies was earlier days when it's formed. Levies was a tribal force, but with the passage of time in last 10 years. Especially that time the Southern Command General Wasim Ashraf and then his successor General Sarfraz Shahid, they both worked very hard for the capacity building of levies. And currently, nowadays, Pakistan Army is training these levies guys who are serving in Balochistan. But that training process is not yet complete. It's under process. Every district, we are recruiting the new levies officials. They are under training in equal to police and the army.
All right. Shahid, I'd also like to, now refer to the meeting the press briefing by the Chief Minister of Balochistan, Mr. Bukti, last night. It was a very fiery press briefing, and he was, of course, narrating what had happened and how the government needs to go forward to it. I mean, he was very strong in his comments when he said that he will never be able to break Pakistan. But he also talked about, how to move forward as far as talks, if possible, with such elements. And he said, why should we talk with these cowards who go for soft targets? He also, talked about increasing the capacity of the forces. What is what is going to happen as far as the security paradigm of Balochistan is concerned now that we have witnessed such incidents? What is in the process of happening?
I don't think Chief Minister's press conference was fiery. I think it was based on some facts and some figures with some narrative. And we know very well Chief Minister Sarfraz Bukti is a Chief Minister from last 5 to 6 months or 8 months. But from day one, he was very clear on one thing. We have to differentiate from the angry person or a terrorist. There we have one issue which was in National Action Plan where religious extremism is considered as a terrorism, but the ethnic extremism is not defined. Either the ethnic extremism is a terrorism or not. Because of that, Chief Minister from day one emphasizing on one thing with the federal government, with the political stakeholders on every forum. He said very clearly and categorically, we need to draw a line. We need to finish this confusion, who are terrorists or who are not terrorists. So I think right now we are in a position where federal government is admitting the stance of Chief Minister Balochistan. Sarfraz Bukti, Ishaq Dar a few days back visited Quetta and he endorsed the opinion of Chief Minister Balochistan. And today, Federal Minister for Interior Mohsen Naqvi was in Quetta and he endorsed the point of view of Chief Minister Balochistan. I think the coming Apex Committee meeting will be the important meeting in case of law and order situation in Balochistan.
Let's stay online with us, Shahid Saab. Lieutenant General Raza Khan Saab, in April this year, 9 passengers are offloaded from a bus near Balochistan's Noshki city and shot dead. Then, if you go to previous incidents, I mean, which are similar to what has happened in Musa Kheli. In October last year, unidentified gunmen fatally shoot 6 laborers. In 2019, gunmen stop a bus near Ormara, near Gwadar, and shoot dead 14 people, including personnel of the Navy, Air Force and Coast Guards. Similar incidents also occurs in the year 2015, when gunmen killed 20 construction workers and injured 3 in a pre-dawn attack on a laborers' camp near Turbat. What do the perpetrators want from instigating such level of violence over the years?
I think this is very clear. We have been saying about this in the past also, that these people are the enemies of Balochistan, they are the enemies of Pakistan, they are the enemies of China-Pakistan economic corridors. They have their sponsors, 90% of whom are foreign, and maybe there are some local supporters. They have their foreign financiers, they have their logistics and legal supporters and other sympathizers. And I think we have to first of all find these people, their sponsors, both foreign as well as domestic, and they have to be punished and they have to be deterred. That deterrence could be both in the offensive as well as the defensive mode, and that is extremely important to finish insurgency and terrorism in Balochistan. I'm sure the government of Balochistan is aware of that. They have to further improve their counter-terrorism department, particularly which is in the police, but unfortunately, the police is responsible only for a few districts, as I said earlier. And finally, I think greater allocation for counter-terrorism should be considered by not only by the provincial government of Balochistan, but KP and others as well. Because unless, clear finances are allocated for this work, I think these kinds of incidents will continue. At the same time, I think Pakistan and China should jointly work together to beat these terrorists, because they are hurting essentially the economic interests of Pakistan and of China. Similarly, I think we are all aware that BLA and the likes, they are openly, clearly supported by India. And I think if there is a need for the Foreign Office to issue a démarche on this account to the government of India, then I think that could also be considered by the government of Pakistan. And finally, I think all other defensive measures in the form of, completing the border fencing and also not only on the Pak-Afghan border, but also on the Pak-Iran border must continue with rigor and with renewed efforts.
All right. Coming to you, Shahid Saab, Lieutenant General Saab pointed towards China. Now, China's foreign ministry spokesperson has had a comment following these events in Balochistan. And Lin Jian, who is a foreign ministry spokesperson, in a regular news briefing, said this about these incidents. China is ready to further strengthen counter-terrorism security cooperation with the Pakistani side in order to jointly maintain regional peace and stability. The neighboring country has also vowed to keep up firm support for Pakistan in counter-terrorism efforts. Do you feel that there is a need for joint counter-terrorism operations with friendly countries such as China? Will this reap the necessary result as required by the current government in the wake of these incidents? And what more do you feel should be now done on different levels? What's your take from as the spokesperson of the Balochistan government?
I think for the counter-terrorism, anyone from federal government or from a neighboring country or a friendly country can interested to support government of Balochistan, we would welcome that support. But for that, I think we should consult with the federal government, and through federal government, we should talk with the neighboring countries or the friendly countries. But one thing is very important: counter-terrorism. We need to enhance the capability of our civilian armed forces. For that, I think if federal government feels there is a need to get some help from a friendly country like China, so I think government of Balochistan would welcome it.
General Raza Khan Saab, our Prime Minister presided over a cabinet meeting today in which he said the following, and I'd like your point of view on these statements. He strongly condemns the terrorist incidents in Balochistan and, of course, other areas of the country that have resulted in the martyrdom of innocent Pakistanis, including the security forces personnel. We all know what happened in Tira also. I just wanted to add to that. He said the sacrifices rendered by the people and the armed forces in the war against terrorism is not going to go to waste. He says the armed forces of Pakistan and the entire nation are committed for the complete elimination of terrorism from the country. He adds that all available resources will be provided to the armed forces to curb the terrorism. Also says doors of dialogue are open for those who believe in Pakistan and its constitution. However, no talks to be held with enemies and terrorists. What kind of unwavering commitment is needed in the wake of these incidents? How do you see also the statement or the statements rather of the Prime Minister in the wake of what has happened in Balochistan?
Well, I think that is the right thing to do because people who have in the past been branding themselves as naraz, and if they are killing their own people, they're killing Pakistanis, whether they're from Balochistan or any other provinces, then I think they do not deserve any talks whatsoever. And it is not I who is saying this. I think the people of Pakistan believe that those people are not worth a dialogue, like the TPP is not worth a dialogue because they do not believe, they do not accept the constitution of the federal government or the laws made by the provincial government. And at the same time, I think the government, I am sure, has been showing a resolute political will to defeat these terrorists, both within and outside Pakistan. We have demonstrated it to India. We demonstrated it, when we were attacked by Iran and others. And I am sure while we are discussing the issue, the law enforcement agencies and the security forces are preparing to do all that they can to defeat these terrorists, whether they are domestic or they are international.
I agree with you on that. Thank you very much, Lieutenant General Raza Muhammad Khan Saab, to have joined us. Defense Analyst Raza Muhammad Khan joining us to discuss the issue of terrorism in Balochistan. Shahid Rind Saab, nearly 24 hours, even more, have passed. Mahrang Baloch Solidarity Committee, Sami Baloch and miscreants have neither condemned these attacks nor have they regretted the killing of the innocent people. A lot of things are becoming very clear as to their real intention is to a lot of people who did not understand that. How should the state deal with persons like Mahrang Baloch, Baloch Solidarity workers and others? Are tough decisions going to be taken? I would also like to refer to what the Chief Minister of Balochistan said last evening in the press briefing about the sympathizers, so-called quote-unquote sympathizers. Are you with us? All right, we are going to get back with Shahid Rind, but nevertheless, we all heard the Chief Minister of Balochistan yesterday when he addressed the media briefing, media conference, and of course he highlighted whatever had been happening in Balochistan and how the government was going to deal with it. Now that's very important, because in the wake of all of that, it's very important that the representative of the Balochistan government, in this case the Chief Minister, highlights whatever has happened needs to be tackled with an iron fist. Now he said, and I quote, "Since the 26th of August, 38 innocent people have been targeted in Balochistan. How can we negotiate with those whose hands are stained with the blood of the innocent?" He also said, "Imposing one's ideology through the force of arms or killing passengers by dragging them out of buses is not a Baloch tradition." He also said, "Killing in the name of religion is terrorism, and targeting innocent people is also terrorism." He also said that these attacks cannot demoralize us. We will avenge each martyr and respond to these terrorists in their own language. He also emphasized the need to understand that this is a war of the state. He said this war is not just for the army, it is a war for the whole society. The decision needs to be made whether to side with the state or with the separatists. He also, of course, criticized certain members in the government, and he also criticized the so-called sympathizers of this Baloch insurgency, and said, look as to how they have reacted after the killing of these innocent Baloch people, or the innocent people who are in Balochistan, in different areas of Balochistan. A lot of important things also were said by him yesterday. He said that there will be all kinds of kinetic and non-kinetic measures will be taken as a result of as a reaction to what has happened in Balochistan. He also said this war is of every single citizen. He also talked about this being an intelligence-driven war, and he talked about the role of the social media as well in this. He also talked about propaganda tools that are being used against forces that will be discarded. He talked about social media campaigns against the security forces. He also talked about installing more checkposts where they deemed necessary, and of course now everybody's eyes are focused on the reaction of the government, whether it be the Balochistan government or the federal government, on how they are going to deal with this incident. This is a heinous incident that has happened in different incidents, in fact not one single incident, but incidents that have happened in different parts of Balochistan, and by the looks of it, the government is all set to react with an iron fist. Let's move towards our second story, and that concerns the Gaza situation, or the war that has started since the 7th of October last year, and to date, of course, 40,476 people have been killed, 93,647 have been wounded. Iraq and its forces are now attacking Deir al-Bala and Khan Yunus. They have killed at least 20 people since this morning. The director of Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahia says Israel is denying the medical sector fuel and aims for its complete destruction. We've been joined by two guests to discuss that in a bit of more detail, and both of them are online. Matthew Bryza, he's a former US ambassador and former White House and senior State Department official also. He joins us online. Thank you very much, Matthew, to have joined us and to have given us the time. Our second guest is Air Commodore retired Basit Raza Abbasi. He's a senior analyst. Sir, thank you very much to have joined us as well. I'll begin with you, Matthew. When you look at the current situation in Palestine, whether it be the attacks on Gaza, in Deir al-Bala, in Khan Yunus, I was just saying 20 people have been killed just this morning. 635 Palestinians have been killed in the occupied West Bank since the month of October. Also 6 Palestinians were killed recently in the occupied West Bank. Then we've got so many other issues related to that. The forces telling the people to displace from one area to the other, and they don't know where to go, how to go, because when they start to install themselves in one area, they are told to skip that area and go to another. They are told to cramp themselves in very, very small spaces where there are many other risks, including that of health and so many others. 10,000 people are missing under the rubble of destroyed buildings, most of them presumed to be dead. Figures from Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics show that Israeli forces have killed 1.8% of Gaza's population since the 7th of October. Are these, in your point of view, not blatant examples of ethnic cleansing or crimes against humanity? When will incidents such as these, which a lot of people claim to be genocide, end?
Yeah, well, there's no question in my mind, at least, that these are crimes against humanity. And, as some very prominent commentators in the Israeli media on left of center have been saying, it seems that Israel is losing its sense of humanity as a result of this, in response to the also horrendous attacks by Hamas on Israeli civilians. The tactics that the IDF seems to be using sort of echo those of Russia, both in the Chechen wars and in Ukraine, where the goal is just to destroy everything, just pummel cities, kill whoever's there, destroy everything. And it's morally unsustainable. Again, understanding, of course, and empathizing with how terrified Israelis were that, October 7th was the largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust. On a per capita basis, it was several times bigger than what the U.S. suffered on the September.
What I'd like to understand, Matthew, is that, the number of casualties when it comes to Palestinians or Gaza has now surpassed 40,000. This is a huge number, which cannot be negated or cannot be compared to any other number. I mean, I'm just talking in very general terms. I'd like to also refer to what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have said. Both have said that they will pressurize Israel to stop the violence that it has perpetrated or is perpetrating within, Palestine. Will the U.S. efforts help stop this aggression that is going on as we speak? Will there be some kind of ceasefire or truce agreement that Joe Biden has been talking about since quite a number of weeks now, but for one reason or another, specifically because of preconditions put by the Israeli side, these truce agreements are being stalled? What's your take on that? A, will there be a truce agreement in the coming days? B, will the efforts of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris bear fruit?
Well, they certainly are close to a ceasefire agreement. And as you said, every time that the negotiations have reached a certain point, Prime Minister Netanyahu has added new preconditions that seem aimed at torpedoing the agreement, because the conventional wisdom is he wants the war to continue for his own political reasons and his own survival, so he doesn't have to face a corruption trial. But my contacts in Israel, and including in the defense sector, increasingly are saying that he's running out of political oxygen to keep this going. Joe Biden, when he met Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington recently, I understand Netanyahu requested the U.S. support the continuation of the war and the Israeli occupation of the Philadelphia corridor, and Biden said no, and was reportedly yelling at Netanyahu, saying, "You've got to end this war." Now, if Biden had remained the U.S. Democratic Party's presidential candidate during the Democratic Party's convention in Chicago last week, I think there would have been major protests against Biden's approach to Israel-Gaza. But because Kamala Harris has been much clearer in saying, yes, we support Israel, we always will, the United States, but we condemn the way Israel has been conducting this war, there were no such major protests. So I think Kamala Harris is going to keep much more pressure on Netanyahu if she's elected. And the negotiations are very, very close to reaching that ceasefire breakthrough.
All right, that's wonderful. I hope we reach a ceasefire agreement sooner than later, because something that the world is also looking towards. Coming to you, Air Commodore Basit Abbasi Saab, Amnesty International is calling for a war crimes investigation into an Israeli attack that killed at least 36 Palestinians sheltering in tents in West Rafah on the 26th of May this year, including a toddler and a woman who were decapitated by metal fragments. Amnesty weapons expert who have analyzed the pictures taken after the attack say that the huge bombs were dropped capable of throwing metal fragments hundreds of meters. Will the United Nations, the ICJ or the ICC intervene and take action? What's your take on that? Because they have in the past as well taken certain actions or resolutions.
But I'm very sorry to say that all these agencies and organizations that you just named are, in my mind, just the debating forums. They do represent the morality, but the morality of the world, the political morality on the side of the heavier artillery. So that's what we are seeing in present context, that a lot of lip service is being given, and a lot of crocodilian tears are being shed on the plight of the Palestinians, but nothing concrete is being done. I sometimes it beat my imagination. Is the American president or the German chancellor or the French president, are they that powerless? Are they that helpless as to stop this genocide going on right in front of their eyes? So why it is not stopping, and why is not the flow of arms and aid towards Israel stopping? The only conclusion that I would draw, and the only conclusion that any rational mind would draw, that there's some sort of difference between the word and what is being felt deep inside. If your thoughts and your mind were at the same place, then it wouldn't have happened. If Kamala Harris was so sort of clear when she was talking to Netanyahu in Washington, and she said that this must stop. Has it stopped? It has not stopped. But has the flow of arms from US to Israel stopped? No, that has not stopped too. So how do you sort of in your mind, how do you place these two things? Either one of them is correct or the other is correct. So this is what I'm saying, that ICG, many countries, the big powers don't even recognize these institutions whom you just named. So please, let's not be in sort of, let me say that let's not be fool ourselves, and let's be very sure that this will continue as long as the powers that are in the world are not ready to step in a sort of more positive and forceful way. And instead of just words, they should sort of supplement it with deeds. This is my take from that.
All right. Matthew, I'd like to understand your perspective of the escalation of this conflict beyond Palestine with the Hezbollah, the Houthi, as well as, of course, the tensions because of the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh within Iranian territories is concerned. What are you expecting? What is the US expecting? Do you feel that there's going to be a more aggressive approach from these sides in the future? And do you feel some kind of, mutual consultation could be held in order to thwart the intensity or the aggressiveness of a future attack from any of these parties? What's your take?
Well, each party and each member of the axis of resistance has different motivations and different degrees of influence or control by Iran, or different degrees of dependence. I think the Houthis are the most independent, and I think that they are feeling very, how to put it, successful, both politically and financially, in the way they have been able to shut down Red Sea shipping. And I don't think that, we know that Iran supplies them with drones and other weapons. They don't manufacture them in Yemen. But Iran can't really fully control them. Just as our friend was just saying, why doesn't the US control Israel? Because he can't. It's a democratically elected country. Similarly, Iran doesn't want a regional war. It certainly doesn't want to see Hezbollah attacked by Israel and have its very capable military capabilities destroyed. So we saw measured exchange of Israeli and Hezbollah firings yesterday. But Hezbollah said that's the first phase. There could be more. But I am hoping that this Hezbollah missile attack on Israel, which caused little damage, maybe is the only phase for a while in response to Israel's assassination of the military leader of Hezbollah, as well as Haniyeh, the political leader of Hamas. But who knows? Who knows what's happening? All I know is Iran doesn't want a regional war with the United States. The U.S. doesn't want a regional war. The Houthis probably do. Hezbollah doesn't want a regional war. Israel as a country doesn't want a regional war, but maybe Netanyahu does want to pull the U.S. in. Fortunately, the U.S. is absolutely going to resist that. But as you said, the tensions are increasing. The U.S. has moved a lot of naval capability in terms of aircraft carrier, assault groups into the basic region. And so if there were a severe miscalculation, things could unwind. But at this level, I think the U.S. is calculating very, very carefully.
All right. Now, looking at all of these aspects, of course, it's very important to look at it from different angles, from different perspectives. That is why, Matthew, I began with you. Air Commodore Basit Abbasi, how do you see the developments between the Hezbollahs and Israel, between the Houthis and Israel as well? Both say that the day the atrocities on Palestinians end, they are going to end their offensive as well. And then there is a reaction by Iran that says that it will react at a time of their choosing. What could happen, and could this be thwarted by some kind of a negotiated process?
Let me first tell you that too much of hype is being created by what Hezbollah has, what Houthis have, and what Iran has. We have very clearly seen just last few days that the big offensive that Hezbollah was to launch on Israel petered out. It was so insignificant, and the 100 U.S. supplied aeroplanes of Israel create havoc with their rocket sites. So that is it's just a hype. This Iran and this Houthis and these Hezbollah combined, they cannot damage Israel because it's very well supported. And as my friend just said, that the fleets are already moving into the waters to do what? To stop the war? No, protect Israel against a hyped attack, which will never come, which will be of no consequence. So that is what it is. It's a media warfare, and I think we are too emotional about it. We think Iran is very powerful. Some people think that Hezbollah is a lot of power. I don't think so. The most powerful countries, we all know who they are and on whose side they are. So unless the more rational approach, the rational people in those countries sort of gather together and try to sort of find a solution to it and sort of be fair and sort of laying their support and weight behind people and organizations and leaders, the things are not going to change. I don't see it happening in the near future. Yes, a ray of hope maybe 4th November, because the US election is very important. And before that, the government in power may want to see some semblance, some sort of a modicum of ceasefire returning. At what cost, I do not know. But before that, I don't see any change really taking place. We'll keep doing these programs, and we'll keep talking ad nauseum about this.
That's an interesting take that you have. But I'd now go towards Matthew. Matthew, Bryza, I'd like to understand from your perspective, what is Israel's end game? There are different perspectives, different reactions to when I ask my guests as to what Israel's end game is. When you look at the current situation, I mean, apart from the casualties, those who've been killed or those who've been injured, there's also a huge medical emergency in the form of non-availability of enough amounts of fuel, medicine, food, water, and of course the health crisis like diseases such as polio or other diseases that are slowly emanating in the region. I'd like to understand how the US can help the Palestinians to at least from a humanitarian point of view, whether it be food, whether it be water, whether it be medicine, whether it be fuel supply to the hospital so that they can start operating again. And B, from your perspective, what do you think is the Israeli end game when it comes to this conflict? Do you feel when is the point that this is going to finally come to an end?
Well, thank you. On your first question, and your became the last question about Israel's endgame, it depends on which Israelis you have in mind. As I said before, Israel is a democracy. Netanyahu, his approach has not been unpopular because of the shock and furor that the Israeli population felt overall at the October 7th attacks. So in general, there's no way to dissuade Israeli people from some harsh response to Hamas. It's absolutely a fact. I know from personal experience that, of course, Hamas mixes in with the civilian population. It has placed missiles. It has for decades in hospitals, in schools. I mean, I've seen them. And so overall, the Israeli body politic wants a harsh response against Hamas. And I said that Israel's becoming less human because so many Israelis feel that en masse, the Palestinians rejoiced at the October 7th attacks. Maybe that's not true, but I think that's the general sentiment that's kind of dehumanizing Israel right now. So the end game for some Israelis is destruction of Hamas, and that's it. For some Israelis, they want to see the Israel control Gaza, so this can never recur, this meaning October 7th. For the extremists in Netanyahu's government, like Finance Minister Smotrich and Security Minister Ben-Gvir, I think their goal is ethnic cleansing, is to push all Palestinians out of Gaza, preferably, they don't care where the Palestinians are pushed, but preferably to Egypt. And that's not going to fly. But so there are multiple end games, and I think what the Biden administration is trying to do is to shape a different end game, which is that Israel stops this indiscriminate set of war crimes, murdering innocent Palestinian civilians, conducts a much more limited military effort against Hamas, but starts also thinking about the political next phase. There has to be some sort of strategic concept in Israel about what happens after the military operations end. Is there going to be, will there be a two-state solution? And in my mind, that's the only way out, is a true two-state solution that is governed by the Palestinian Authority in Ramallah. So that's what the Israeli end games are. In terms of what the U.S. can do, you know, it built that pier that broke apart in the waves. That was in defiance of Netanyahu, who was trying to slow or block aid to the Palestinians, humanitarian aid. So the U.S. said, fine, we're going to go around you, Netanyahu, and build that pier out, you know, in Gaza out into the sea. It didn't work. The U.S. was also dropping humanitarian aid from airplanes by parachute. It didn't work. Either those, sometimes those parachuted aid shipments killed poor Palestinians on the ground when the shipments landed upon them. And other times there was pandemonium when the trucks were bringing aid in and they were not hijacked, but people raided them. So the U.S. has been trying, but this is the scale of the need is so huge that the U.S. can help. But it really should be, I think, the U.S. and the international community creating lots of pressure on Israel so that the United Nations and the World Food Program can execute their missions in Gaza.
All right. Coming to you, Air Commodore Basit Abbasi Saab, the OIC, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, have joined Qatar and Jordan in condemning Israeli Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir over his call for the establishment of a synagogue in the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound and demanding accountability for Israeli officials' continued violations of international law. Ben-Gvir has also said he would put an Israeli flag on the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. When you look at incidents that instigate violence such as these, and of course, as Matthew also pointed out, these are far-right elements within the Israeli government, but in the wake of everything that you are seeing, what is the way forward and what is Israel's endgame? If I was to ask you the same question that I asked Matthew, from your perspective, what is the Israeli endgame and what could be done to salvage whatever is left of Palestine?
You want me to answer that first?
Yes, sir, but we're a bit short of time.
Okay, fine. End game, you don't have to guess. It has been very clearly spelled out by Netanyahu. He wants Gaza to be annexed with Israel. And that is the end game if he has his way. I hope the world conscience doesn't let that happen. But if he has his way, he's the democratic elected leader of a country who is allowed to perpetrate all sorts of crimes against humanity just because he's democratically elected. So he has a free hand. And I don't know when would the world conscience come into play and stop him from moving forward. But if he has his way unimpeded, he would run over Gaza and annex it with Israel. That's what he wants to do. Whether he succeeds or not, so only time will tell. But this is what I feel.
All right, thank you very much, Air Commodore Basit Abbasi. Thank you very much, Matthew Bryza, former US Ambassador and to have joined us, to have had this important discussion on the current situation in the war between Palestine and Israel. Thank you very much to my both eminent guests. Let's come to my last two stories very quickly. The first concerns a new monkeypox strain that is changing faster than expected or mutating faster than expected. We've seen that in COVID, and we are seeing this now in mpox. And this is happening mostly in Democratic Republic of Congo, where the number of cases are much more than any other part of the world. Mpox has been a problem in parts of Africa since 1970, but received little attention in the past. But now that we are seeing the virus mutating and other countries also getting more patients, this is what the world is now being alerted to monkeypox, although it has not come to the level of COVID. And of course, we also know that the Pakistan's government and the National Health Services have also said that the mpox virus was under control in the country. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, the United Nations chief Antonio Guterres warns of unimaginable climate catastrophes due to sea level rises. He has issued this latest climate SOS calling on countries to save our seas, and he has warned of a crisis of an unimaginable scale caused by greenhouse gases and rising sea levels. He was speaking at a gathering of the Pacific Island regional leaders on Tuesday in Tonga's capital, Nuku'alofa, and he warned that there was no lifeboat to take us back to safety. Now, climate change, of course, as we all know, is something that we need to tackle with an urgency before it's way too late. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news story segments that pertain to us in Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.